Susan Alamo, and I'm going to be speaking out, and I have some guests with me, and I know you're going to be interested in what they have to say, so would you stay with us for the next half hour? My guests on this program are Ina and Bill Levy and their children. I'm going to let the children introduce themselves. You are?
Rebekah Levy.
Oh, come on, Rebekah, speak up.
Rebekah Levy.
And you are?
Julie Levy.
And this is Bill and Ina Levy. And these have been raised at Foundation, haven't they?
That's right.
Sure have.
Bill, tell us, Jewish man from New York, here in the state of Arkansas, how did that happen?
Well, it happened in a roundabout way. I got saved, and I came to know the saving grace of Jesus Christ through your ministry, and I came out to Arkansas along with the church. I had been raised in a Jewish family all my life in New York City, and at a real early age I was a rebellious child, and I had gotten a lot of trouble with the law, and by the time I was 16 I had been imprisoned in the Tombs in New York City and running with street gangs, and I had taken my first shot of heroin. I had been a drug addict, and I had been a drug addict for about 5.5 years. My life just consisted of one crime after another. I'd wake up in the morning and the first thought would be where I would get my drugs from, my heroin, how I'd go about stealing or robbing or doing whatever I had to do to get it, going out and getting it and then coming back, and it was a miserable existence. And I had been in and out of jails, and I had tried to commit suicide in and out of mental institutions, and I was pretty much ready for the grave by the time you and Tony got a hold of me and told me the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ. I had gone through every program, such as Phoenix House and Synanon, to try to get off of heroin addiction. I was completely insane by the time I was 21 years old. My parents were both Jewish, and they tried everything that they possibly could to help me. I didn't come from a broken home, but on the contrary, I rejected everything that they ever tried to do for me. I hated them. I used to threaten their life. I tried to extort money from them. There was no love between my parents and myself, and in fact, they had sent me away they had actually prayed for the Lord to take my life and just bury me, and be done with me. And I came out to California, and I got involved with some people that I had known back in New York. I had hung around with convicted murderers, and I ran into this fellow from Sing Sing, and he was killing drug pushers for money, and I thought it was a very enterprising job, and I was about to get into it this particular night when somebody from your foundation, your church, witnessed to me and told me about Jesus Christ. I had come by the service because the Spirit of the Lord drew me. At the time, I didn't know why I was coming by. I didn't want to hear about Jesus. I didn't want to hear about anything. And I remember coming into the church. At that time, it was on Crescent Heights Boulevard, and Tony was bringing the message, and it was a hellfire and brimstone message. It was unbelievable. I remember sitting there listening to it, and I remember sitting in the congregation and watching everybody. And everybody that I had seen looked so alive, and they had so much happiness, and I was so miserable. I remember I had a throwing knife strapped to my back, and I was just at that point I was a vicious animal, and I felt so convicted. I remember everybody getting up and clapping for gospel songs. And I was so ashamed.
And you had never heard a gospel song before in your life, had you?
I had never heard. Well, the only gospel song I might have heard was a Christmas carol on Christmas, or Old Little Town of Bethlehem or something. But never a blood-washed, are you washed in the blood of the Lamb song, no. And I remember just being so ashamed of myself. And Tony bringing the message, and he brought the most spirit-filled message. It was a message of life, and it was a full gospel. It was a message that Jesus Christ was alive, and that he was the same Jesus that walked the seashores of Galilee, and that he could touch me individually and bring me out of the life of sin that I was in. And it was also a message of judgment that if I wasn't born again and I went out to meet a living God, that my soul would be eternally lost. And I thank God that I believed Him. And I got down on my knees and I asked Jesus Christ to come into my heart and my soul. And I felt the Spirit of the living God come into my body. And from that second on, I never took another drug in my life, and that's been over 11 years now. I was completely delivered. Sue, incidentally, you know how people, I like to speak out.
Well, go right ahead. You speak right out. That's what it's all about.
You know, you hear these people bringing accusations about the church and how you and Tony try to keep us away from our parents. It's so contrary to what the truth of the matter is. Before I came to the church, I was so alienated from my parents that it was unbelievable. I wouldn't let my parents touch me. I was an absolute animal. And by the time after I had gotten saved, I called my parents up and I told them that Jesus Christ had saved my soul and I no longer take drugs. And I just told them how happy I was, and they both, being Jews, they didn't understand at first what I was talking about, but they really cared for me, and they came down to see what the work was all about. And they met you and Tony, and they saw the work, and they both gave their heart to the Lord Jesus Christ. They saw that Jesus Christ had done such a supernatural work in me. And I just really like to praise and thank the Lord that He allowed me to be part in this ministry and to meet you people.
Bill, during the time that you was causing so much trouble, you did everything in your power. You could just harass your parents, didn't you?
Certainly
Cause them all the trouble. I remember your mother told me one time that you brought an alligator home, put it in the bathtub.
Yes, ma'am.
She said that it just absolutely terrified her, and that you forbid anybody to let that alligator go. You kept it in the bathtub.
Yeah, it was about a 3.5 foot alligator.
You must have been something else to contend with. Your mother and father both have become born-again Christians.
Yes, ma'am, they have. They certainly have.
Because the transition in your life of seeing you from what you was to what God did for you and did with you. Bill, did you ever have did you ever have a desire for heroin after you were really born again, after you really accepted the Lord Jesus Christ?
Sue, I absolutely did not have a desire. In fact, quite the contrary. I actually hated the things that I used to love to do. I just detested the thought of what I used to do. And I just changed. I'm just a new person, and I'm just so thankful to God that He did that for me. My life was such a mess before I met Jesus.
How do you react to being referred to as a child after the kind of life you lived so many years, and now all of a sudden you're nobody had any concern, I don't suppose, when you was out there doing all those things. Your father says that he took you to every type of psychiatrist, psychologist, clinic, hospital, anything and everything, that in trying to get some help for you. Did anybody ever tell you that you was brainwashed at that time?
No, they never said I was brainwashed. They never said I was a child. They used to try to try me criminally as an adult. They try to put me in mental institutions for the criminally insane as an adult. I find it real degrading. I think that it's the media is intentionally trying to degrade born-again Christians. I think it's really the most degrading thing to be called like a boy or a child, somebody that's a grown man with a wife and 2 children. It's just trying to demean anything that God has raised up. They're just trying to put a black eye on the gospel of Lord Jesus Christ and the people of the Lord.
Well, there isn't any doubt that that's what it's all about, but it sure does make it rough on us, because it just makes us an open target. People beat us for our money. They people go out and work and build buildings, and they beat us for our labor, and have to take people to court to even get your money after you've spent hours out there working. And none of these things are ever told, you know. And any kind of business that you try to operate, immediately here comes the every kind of state and county and government agency, you know. I mean, now other people can just do anything in the world, you know.
That's right.
But the minute it is us, it's a big story. It's a big deal. We have a little pig farm, and it's incredible. You're in charge of the pig farm. What's
Yes,
a
ma'am.
Jew doing running a pig farm? You hypocrite. You won't eat it, but you raise them and you sell them.
That's right. Well, you know, this is the
If you got
hard
the
state.
same story Tony's got, he says them Gentiles are going to eat it anyway. I might as well be raised.
That's exactly what the same story is.
So, but anything that we have, immediately, they're right there to jump right on top of it. And there's always some big story to be told about it. And like, you know, you're just doing something terrible. And people all around you can just be doing everything in the world, you know, business-wise, and nobody pays any attention to it. But the minute it's us, it's a whole different story. Hey, I'm not crying about it, you know. I don't have a thing in the world to be sad about. Not a thing. Because we're going to make it one way or the other.
That's
Jesus
right.
said so. And in every one of these things, you're going to see God undertake with it. He has never failed us yet, or He isn't ever going to. So I'm not crying on anybody's shoulder. I feel sorry for people. I think it's pathetic that people don't realize what they're doing and what they're walking into by the type of things that they do. Ina, tell us how a Jewish girl is in Arkansas, and you know, another point that I wanted to bring out, how do you feel about, I know that you heard these stories back in New York all of your life because, you know, Jewish people always exchange stories, you know, of persecution, of how they're persecuted in Europe. And for a long time, the Jewish people in the South, they didn't even have synagogues. They couldn't have synagogues. The Ku Klux Klan even burned the synagogues down. And then when you become a Christian and you find yourself here in the Bible Belt that they're supposed to be Christians, what do you feel about being persecuted now as a Christian? Don't you think somebody better get their act together?
They sure better. You just can't win, so it's just like the Lord Jesus Christ. They'd come against them, you know, for going out and preaching to the harlots and you know, the sinners, and they'd get on them for, you know,
Whatever he did, anything he did, didn't make any difference what it was. Said, oh, wait a minute. You sinner, you healed people on the Sabbath day. You know, how could you do such a thing as that? Just look at this. He goes out and he heals people on the Sabbath day. Isn't that incredible? That's why he was crucified.
That's right.
But somebody always has to be the scapegoat. Always. They're going to pick out somebody for a scapegoat. And it's always the ones that are the good ones. Otherwise, the devil wouldn't be centralizing his activities around them.
That's right.
I can always tell the ones that's for real. I say to people, well, how's everything over at your church? Oh, everything is just fine. All right. If everything is just fine, there's something
right.
wrong. Isn't that right?
That's right.
That's right.